change the culture, the mindset, the expectation level, and improve the brand of Indiana Hoosier football.
Happy New Year, Brad.
Happy Hanukkah.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you.
All that good stuff. Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks since we last spoke, since we last got together and recorded any type of podcast stuff, I guess I'll call it. It's been an eventful 2 weeks. We have a lot to talk about. But yeah, Brad, how you been?
I've been good. I'm back in Chicago after being in LA for about a week for Christmas, the holidays, green Christmas every year. I've never seen a white Christmas, even though I have an Indiana football podcast. Very interesting life I have, I guess, when you reflect on it. But yeah, doing great overall. And yeah, it was a great Christmas. How was your Hanukkah? How was it?
Hanukkah was great. Yeah, holiday season's always good. I actually just got back from Boca. I went and saw the boys. They were down here. Weekend was good.
Nice.
Yeah, dog. I was in Boca, dude.
Hell yeah.
Great city. I love that place. But yeah, I'm back and ready to go. There's been no shortage of things to talk about on Indiana football Twitter and about Indiana football in general. But before we jump right into what is going to be obviously a very football-heavy podcast, I do want to just point out one of the coolest things that happened over the holiday season, like kind of right after we put the mic down. But if you don't know, if you're kind of confused about the Asian characters at the back end of the podcast on Twitter, that's Korean. And the IU Alliance happened. The IU Alliance is one of the coolest things I think I've ever been a part of. I'll give you a crash course on it real quick if you have no idea what I'm talking about. But essentially, some random account that was a fan of a Korean artist slid into Indiana Edits DMs, if you don't know Indiana Edits on Twitter, and it was like basically talking shit. And there's Indiana Edits puts together like the road trip group chats, which I haven't been able to be a part of yet because I haven't traveled to any of the games, so I'm excited to get into some of those next year. But basically sent that picture and was like, this guy's talking shit. And then Hoosier Comrade was like, well, there's a Korean artist named IU, so let's see if we can get some of their fans to be Indiana fans. And so a couple of those guys, Ryan Cotter as well, Edward Cotton, those guys kind of hit it hard, and the IU Alliance was born, and fast forward 18 hours later, it's number 15 in the world trending. So a really cool moment, and we picked up some Korean fans, so that's really cool.
We have infiltrated South Korea, which is huge. Honestly, I don't think people understand the impact of that when people start talking smack on Indiana and they have a bunch of Korean in their comments, and they don't know what's going on. It's a whole army.
No, this alliance is very real.
In theory, it could be a very powerful force.
No, 100%. And I mean, she's a phenomenal artist. Like I've had a chance to dive into some of her music. She's got some great songs. The Winnings, her new EP. Coin was the edit that account made. That was phenomenal. If anybody saw the
I loved all the edits. That was great to watch. It's not bad music at all by any means.
No, it's great. I've been listening to a lot of IU actually, so I'm really excited to see what the future of that looks like from an NIL perspective, from a culture perspective.
I'm more of a LiAngelo Ball guy though when it comes to my music.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was a super cool just like moment as just humans. So shout out to the Indiana Burner verse, shout out to the IU Alliance, and we're going strong, baby.
Yeah, hopefully we can ride some momentum going into hoop season potentially. I know they're really all about the women's basketball, but also let's do the men's hoops as well. Let's get they love soccer over there too. I'm sure they're going to be all about the IU soccer team. Lots of potential.
Yeah, it's huge. We're very excited.
They're playing her songs at the Assembly Hall. Did you know that?
Yeah, they were. And the women's team is a pleasure to watch. And the men's team is starting to turn it around a little bit. But this is not a basketball podcast. We're not going to be talking Indiana basketball. Let's talk Indiana football. And if you're going to talk the 2024 Indiana Hoosiers, you have to start with Kurtis Rourke, who, lo and behold, apparently was playing the entire season on a torn ACL. He tore his right ACL. The reports are that he did it in July. And they were like, yeah, you're going to be done for the year. And he was just like, nope, I'm not. And put up a Heisman season on one leg. So, what do you say to that? Like, hats off, man. Like, Jesus Christ.
What a dog. And I think I love his decision. And I totally get why he did it, too. Because you don't know if you're going to get that medical hardship waiver again. You just don't know. And his plan was either NFL or Indiana going into the offseason. And he ended up giving Indiana a shot and then had that unfortunate injury in practice and then just decided to play. Makes a lot of sense because when he ran, it was pretty hard to watch, and he also could not throw on the run. Need an ACL for that.
100%. And it was, somebody pointed out, I can't remember which account pointed this out, but when he was, like, the photos from the spring game and from the spring practices, he didn't wear a brace on his right knee. And then they came back for fall camp and he was wearing a brace on his right knee and nobody said anything about it.
Yeah, I always thought the brace was for his previous injury. I didn't really notice the no knee brace point of Kurtis Rourke.
Me neither. And then it's typical that quarterbacks, even if they're not injured, wear one on their plant leg. I've seen that a lot. I know a lot of college coaches sometimes prefer that. But it was on his right leg. And I didn't even think twice about it.
Yeah, I just assumed that was his injury, and it was his same knee. Weird. Pretty.
I mean, this says a lot of things. First of all, we just spoke about the toughness of Kurtis Rourke. Like, just to play on
the knee.
Like, oh my God. That's just
Legend.
incredible. The toughness, the grit, like, build the statue isn't even strong enough. Like, you could name a building after this guy or something. Like, name the stadium after him. Like, I don't know. Name the turf after him. Like,
you could consider Jersey retirement.
to put your body on the line like that, knowing it's your potentially one of your only shot to put like film on, like put stuff on film for NFL scouts, and you just decide to go and compete for the university like that, owing us nothing. Like, that just says a lot about who he is as a competitor, as a person. Like, it's better than we even thought, and we thought the world of this guy. Like, it's insane.
Could you imagine this season if Rourke didn't play?
That's true too. It's like, what does that Ohio State game look like if Kurtis Rourke isn't saying hike and getting hit immediately because he can roll to the right? Like, what does the Notre Dame game look like if he can actually, like, plant on his back leg and drive through a throw instead of miss high with everything?
No, I'm saying what would happen if Taven Jackson was our starter every game this year? Kurtis Rourke didn't play.
Oh.
I mean, I love that
Taven.
analysis, like the theory of, like, what if you didn't tear his ACL? What the season would have looked like. The season happened.
No, we get to play that game.
I think a better testament to Rourke as a player is, like, imagine this season without having Kurtis Rourke as your quarterback. Do we come back? Obviously, we beat Washington. Probably beat Nebraska. Do we go into UCLA and win that game? Week 3. Taven Jackson's third game. First big road game. Do we go in and win like we did? Probably win that one close. Probably win that one close. Charlotte, get a gritty dub. Do we beat Maryland? I don't know. I don't know, man.
I don't know. I think you could also make the argument that Washington was the third best team they played this year, and Taven started and won that game.
True, but, like, the way a lot of those games gone with the growing pains that they had, and Taven being as inexperienced as he is compared to Kurtis Rourke.
I think the game that makes your point is Michigan. Like, you needed, like, the Michigan game.
We lose the Michigan.
If Rourke throws a bad pick, it's like I don't want to say we probably lose that game because I have a lot of confidence in Taven. We'll talk about where he ended up at UCF. But
been fine. I think we would have gone bowling. I don't know. We definitely don't go to the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, just insanity. And here, another thing it says is just the fact that there's no way Kurtis Rourke and then it wasn't just Kurtis Rourke and a doctor sat in a dark room and made this decision. Like, there had to be a large handful of people who were involved in this, And well, I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about like involved with the football team, like trainers and other players and players' parents and coaches and
The fact that
the
everyone
fact that
knew too. You don't think the team knew and it still didn't
the
leak?
fact
That
that
says a lot about this team.
that's my point.
Yeah.
That's where I was getting at is the fact that nothing leaked. Like nobody knew, and it came out for was it Tom Pelissero? I'm not too familiar with him, but that's not an Indiana guy. That's a national reporter.
Yeah, because Rourke's agent just said he's getting surgery, and everyone's like, "Wait, why? why is he getting?" Oh yeah. He played through an ACL all year. Oh, really?
Oh yeah, casually. Like what? Like the Indiana media was just as surprised as the rest of the fans were to find this out. When you'd think that information should, like, everybody has a relationship, like it should just kind of be floating around, and nobody outside that building knew, and that's a testament to what they're building there.
Agreed. And we're seeing it in the portal. And the hires they're making to backfill leaving coaches and the staff, speaking of Tino Sunseri, keeping it in the quarterback room. Tino Sunseri goes to UCLA. Enter Chandler Whitmer, new quarterbacks coach at Indiana University. He's been introduced. I think we knew about it when we recorded, but he was introduced officially.
Yeah, he was officially introduced after. Well, yeah, well, I want to save the transfer portal stuff for a little after the smoke, but he was introduced around the same time that Mendoza was officially signed, which I thought was pretty cool. But I don't know too much about Whitmer. I haven't done my like crazy deep dive on his entire coaching background yet. I just, like we talked about briefly the last time we spoke, he's worked with Justin Fields, he's worked with Trevor Lawrence, he's worked with Michael Penix, he's been at a lot of big programs, he's been in the NFL. Like, sweet, come in and work with our quarterbacks. Again, when you have 11 of 12 assistants stay, yeah, I'm pretty confident you're going to be bringing in somebody who's going to fit that culture. Now, listen, you're replacing 6 guys, it's a little bit different. But when you're replacing one guy, but at the same time, I mean, I'd be confident that if they had to replace that many. But I'm just saying, like, the cosign from Cygnar and the rest of the staff is more than enough for me to be like, cool, let's roll.
This guy is a crazy resume. He's a former college quarterback, obviously. Like to see that from your quarterback coach. Played at the highest level, played at UConn when they were pretty decent. Not going to lie. And after that, became a grad assistant at Ohio State and Clemson. Both of his teams went to the college football playoff. From there, right out of being a GA, kind of insane, becomes an offensive quality control coach for the Los Angeles Chargers. Right out of GA.
Oh, yeah, and he worked with Herbert. I forgot. That was the guy I was forgetting.
And this past year, he's working with our boy Mike Penix as the pass game specialist for the Falcons. Now he's taken a promotion in a position coach job at a college program. It's definitely a promotion from where he's at, but the resume is pretty good. The NFL background, Cygnar probably knows. You nail that interview with Cygnar. Quarterback's guy in
That's
himself.
what I'm saying.
Like, I'm trusting that hire every time.
Brian Haynes talked about his interview with Cygnar, and he said they talked about like small talk stuff for like 4 minutes and then talk ball for an hour and a half. He's like, I love this guy. I was like, if you can just sit there and talk ball with Cygnar, like co-signed, like that's it. That's all I need to hear. Like
Speaking of which, you won another Coach of the Year.
He did. I honestly couldn't even tell you which one this was.
Doesn't matter. He won the Goom, so doesn't even matter.
He did win the Goom Coach of the Year.
He did win the Goom Coach of the Year. Honestly, it was pretty. People probably think it was a landslide. It wasn't. Kenny Dillingham was really close. Getting that bye. Great season.
The
from
one
Kenny
award.
Dillingham. Gotta give him a shout out.
The one head coaching award he didn't win was what? The Dodd Award, and that's because it disqualifies first year head coaches.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And Freeman won it over Dillingham. That's pretty cool. Freeman did have a very underrated season.
I have an agenda now, Brad. You know what my agenda is?
What? What's your agenda?
It's Marcus Freeman as the next head coach of the New York Jets.
He's not taking that job. You think he's an insane person? No, he's not going to take that job. My new agenda, which I think is actually more feasible than your one, is making the safety worth 3 or 4 points and the ball. a safety has to be worth more than 2 points. It's ridiculous that it's only worth 2 points. It's basically an own goal. Like, you're scoring a touchdown in your own end zone, but the other team has the ball. It's like the same thing. It should be 3 points in the ball at least. At least. Maybe even 6 points.
You could talk me into that.
Yeah.
You could probably
6
talk me into
points,
that.
no ball,
No,
or 3 points and ball. You pick.
Here, I know it's not going to happen because this would be the best possible. This is the last thing I'll say about the Jets before we're going right back to Indiana football. But it's never going to happen because they always do the wrong thing. But first, hire Louis Riddick as the GM. Then use Louis Riddick to go recruit Marcus Freeman in a let's save the Jets. And then we're golden. You can't do it the other way around.
It's not going to work.
Because
even if
nobody's going to listen to Woody Johnson. But no, but it'll never happen. They're going to hire Rex Ryan. They're going to hire, like...
He wouldn't be good. He wouldn't work. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, like, as a Jets fan, but, like, even if they got Marcus Freeman, like, it just wouldn't work. Like, just won't. I don't know how to tell you. I think Marcus Freeman's a great coach.
You don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell me.
The problems with that organization... It's so different. You got to get an NFL guy.
The problems with that organization is the problem starts with the guy running it, and he's not going anywhere. And so that's why it's looked exactly the same since he's owned the team. But I digress. Junior Day is coming up at Indiana. That's for the class of 2026. That's going to be on January 25th. There's a shitload of high-impact 2026ers that are already confirming they'll be on campus. So that's going to be really exciting. This is going to be a huge day. Last year for Junior Day, maybe it was senior. I guess it had to be technically Senior Day. Juju Lewis made an unofficial visit. That was like kind of the biggest deal. But they had guys like Byron Baldwin Jr. there and Davion Chandler and LeBron, like all KG and Hall and all these dudes who are in this class. All those guys were at last year's Senior Day. Like, these recruiting events are huge, and I'm really excited to see what they do.
They're high impact
off the season
in terms of how your recruiting class is formed early on. They did have a Junior Day last year, and they definitely invited juniors. That's where we're going to see the impact from.
No, 100%.
The 2026 class or the 2025 class this year.
So Junior Day would have been the 2025.
So this year,
Junior Day would have been like Byron Baldwin Jr. and Chandler and those guys.
They're also going to bring in 2027 guys. They're going to be good too. Promise.
Yeah, so that's super, super exciting. Moving back a little bit,
Kamara.
We got the greatest Christmas present of all time. Mikhail Kamara announced with a sweet video from the media, like the media department for Indiana football has been absolutely crushing all year. No surprises there, but the Kamara I'm returning, like I'm not done yet. I still have more to do. Like, inject that straight into my veins. Then D'Angelo Pons. Dope ass looking video too. He's back as well. It's scary. The Brian Haynes tweet was awesome. I wish I had it sitting in front of me actually. But it was like
All-Americans coming back for the Hoosiers on defense next year.
I'm gonna find the Brian Haynes.
There's probably not a team in the country that can say that going into the next year.
At all three levels of the defense too. Like, it's just really impressive stuff.
Yeah, they're gonna have to play big roles if we're gonna be, good next year. Impact seasons.
All right, here's the Haynes tweet. He said 4, it always starts there. Then 6, trouble. Big trouble. Now 5, no escaping now. Guess it's not a one-off. More coming. Standards rising. Now you'll see it. Hashtag new era. Hashtag never daunted.
Our defense was top 10 this year, and they probably got better in the offseason.
I guarantee you they got better. Dude, I'll scream it from the rooftop. And Buffton Prime has done a great job of putting this kid in the spotlight. But Jose Wheeler is so good at football. Like, putting him and Kamara on the same line, and Landino, who's going to be another year older and in the weight room, those three guys are gonna cause destruction. And then whoever ends up winning that 4th spot with the guys we've brought in or on the roster, like, it's the defensive line. Like, I love James Carpenter. I love the effort he played with. He was a leader. He was a dog in the trenches. Jose Wheeler is a different type of player. Like, we got better.
Yeah, what's exciting about the D-line is that it might not know CJ West, which is a big gap to fill, but I think we were talking about this before. Like, Wheeler he's going to be the James Carpenter role, but he's going to have the CJ West impact on the game. Whereas we bring in like Tyreek Tucker at nose, we move him up. He's one of our highest PFF grade guys on the defense. He's going to slide in at nose tackle from backup. He's going to get the promotion. and he's going to be more CJ West role, James Carpenter impact on the game. Both high impact guys, but just kind of different levels. With Wheeler, I think can be an all conference guy more likely than Tyreek Tucker, who's a very good player, will be great at the nose for us. And then I'm thinking Landino at that other end. Since with Kamara moving to stud, Landino gonna get a shot. We've been pulling for Landino since we previewed him early in one of our first ever episodes when we were talking about the freshman coming in. We talked about Landino the most just because his
Well,
remember
yeah,
his stats were insane. He had like a
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
He played
97
D-tackle. He had
tackles.
92 tackles in the high school season. That's
Again,
insane.
97.
97, yeah, whatever, something crazy.
That's stupid.
They play 10
I remember you
games.
freaking out.
How's he getting 9 tackles a game from D-tackle?
I remember talking to my buddy about him who lives like in that area of I forget the name of the school. Emmaus, I think, is the name of the school. But I was like, oh, you ever hear of E-Mouse? And he was like, you mean the school that's 10 minutes down the road? Yeah, why? I was like, oh shit, like Hoosiers got this guy, and he's like, I've seen that dude before, like he's a stud. So yeah, and I mean he was playing at the end of the Notre Dame game, and he was making plays. So yeah, super. I mean, yeah, we haven't been quiet about it. We're super pumped about Landino.
Can't wait to preview that room. That room is O-line, D-line, lots of depth. Maybe with the star power at the top. Might be a few years away, but we're closer than we were last year. Or, yeah, because it's last year now. Yeah? It's 2025, new season.
Yeah, we're new season.
Unfortunately, we are still not playing football, but we will be at this point one day. I promise. We're well on our way.
Listen, the roster is starting to change. Like the school year's over. Like it's past New Year's. They're not still playing football. It's the next year. Hold the transfer portal talk real quickly. I got a little bit of smoke we got to still get through. Indiana, as a university, was 6th this year among all universities for the NIL store. NIL store does like Indiana NIL store, and obviously for every other university. So top 10 is huge. But obviously, I'd love to see that at number 1. I got to do my part. I got a Mikal Kamara purchase in my future, so very excited about the prospect of new merch and obviously supporting the boys.
Yeah, donate to the NIL fund. CJ West, Terry Jones to the draft. I don't think that was all of our seniors are gonna declare for the draft, so not sure why this is really smoke, to be honest. But I think Terry Jones can get a combine. CJ West will definitely get a combine invite, and Terry Jones is probably on the fence. He'll probably definitely get in the Senior Bowl. He was making plays this year. He has a shot. He has some good tape out. So
I want to say he's going to the East-West Shrine Bowl, but
yeah, good for them. They're definitely draft worthy guys. West will definitely get drafted. Terry Jones definitely on the fence, because the draft does get weird toward the end. A lot of guys you think get drafted don't get drafted. So.
Yep. And then people like angle for undrafted free agent deals and priority spots, and there's a bunch of politics and things like that. It's not necessarily like cut and dry.
Yeah, they'll definitely be on 90 minutes, 100%.
Brad, your boy Jim Mora, now the
should have never been fired.
Former head coach of UCLA, now the current head coach of UConn, after their dominating bowl win, took to the mic and called out an unknown party or unknown parties for quote-unquote tampering with his roster. Within the hour, ESPN Zin or ESP Zin is tweeting that their star receiver Bell is committed to Michigan. There's this whole thing. Who was the school Mora was talking about? Fast forward a week and a half later, Bell doesn't even get into Michigan, so he's back at Connecticut.
That's the funniest shit I've ever heard. It's definitely
who knows if that's true, but
it's probably like a lot of teams. I'm not even gonna play a guessing game, but you could probably might have been us. Who knows? I would love I would love it if it was us. Honestly, I would love that.
You've been saying for weeks. I hope we are cheating.
Yeah, I really do. Because honestly, like they're never gonna give out the death penalty again. So just like fuck it, There's too much money in the game to give a team a death penalty. That's just won't happen. It just won't happen. So like
Speaking of trying to give programs the death penalty, it's been a miserable 2 weeks for ESPN and their associated college football personalities. I don't want to spend too much time harping on this because I think it's just like I mean, it's just a daily occurrence on Twitter.
we
They're
just
all just
know.
getting beat over the head with the
We've been
takes.
saying this for
But it's
all year. All year
Yeah,
we were talking about it.
you can't gaslight your audience when everybody can see what's happening live, and you can't alter footage, and you can't alter things that were said in the past. Like the Herbstreit went on 3 with Wasserman, and I always forget the guy's name. I apologize, but he went on that podcast this morning, and basically he was like, I don't even know where this SEC bias narrative came from. Like, guys, it's unbelievable. Like when you sit on College Game Day in front of the national college football audience and you tell them that the Indiana and SMU didn't deserve to be there and other teams should have gotten the chance to be in, and then you look and the first 2 or 3 teams out are Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss, and then you turn around and you're like, I wasn't even talking about Alabama. Well, then who could you possibly have been talking about, Kurt?
Illinois.
Because they were the first team out.
He was talking about Illinois the whole time.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So the fact that the guy keeps opening his mouth and it's not just like, yeah, my bad, guys, I may have took it a little too far, or even just doubling down on what he said. Because if you actually go back and look at what he said, yeah, it was like harsh towards Indiana, but he was saying that he was basically saying what he saw in the game is that Notre Dame was just a level above. Now, that's not the point of the playoff. The point of the playoff is earn your way there and then play the game. But like his initial point, if he just doubled down on that, I think it'd be a lot harder to argue. But the fact that he's now pulling back and being like, hey, listen, it's not just like ESPN versus Indiana or Kirk versus Indiana or Dinich or McDonough or Feinbaum actually waving the white flag when he opened up after the Alabama loss.
Feinbaum, class act.
Yeah, he was just like, I can't.
He's been doing
it
longer than anyone. And the fact that when it was actually time, when it was very, very obvious, like clear cut, like Big Ten is probably better than the SEC, he admitted it. He was like, he made some of the points we were making, like the same thing happened last year. Happened 2 years in a row now. That's a trend. That's a trend in college football. Shit moves quick. 4-year guys. It's a new era. It's different.
Guess who's not catching flack?
Yeah, they let the foxes in the hen house. We've been saying this all year. Big Ten proceeds to go 4-1 in bowl games. We'll go more in depth maybe later if we have time. Crazy. 4-1 in bowl games, and the whole rhetoric for the SEC is superior, or at least far superior, is dead because it's clearly
completely
close. The conference that does suck. You know who impressed me over bowl season? Big 12 looked really good. ACC, did you see they went 0-11 against the spread? 0-11. 0-11. 1-10 straight up, something like that. Crazy.
Not great.
Crazy. That's a bad look.
No.
That's a bad look. 0-11 against the spread for your conference. I watched Pitt lose to Toledo in Detroit. Now, for those who don't know, Toledo is probably a 1-2 hour drive to Detroit. So it's basically a Toledo home game. Pittsburgh's not that far away, but probably Toledo home game.
Pittsburgh's the much bigger school with the bigger alumni base.
Like Pitt wanted to fight Toledo. Like that's how bad it is in the ACC. Like Toledo's probably chirping like, "Hey, we're in the MAC and we're playing with you because your conference stinks." And yeah, I think ACC has to be a one-bid league moving forward. But even though I do still think they got the field right with 2 ACC teams, just based on what happened this year and what we knew then, ACC has to be considered possibly a tier below the Big 12 moving forward. In my unbiased opinion. No agenda against the ACC. I would like the ACC to be good. I love Miami. I love Florida State. Like those teams when they're good. I don't know. They're just not there right now. They're just not. SMU might run that conference. With all the money they got, oh my God. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, Bill Belichick's in there now. Brad, be careful.
Notre Dame's not going away because they got money. SMU's like in that same boat in terms of like stupid money they got floating around.
Yeah, they don't have the NBC contract though.
Like, I hear all these SEC fan bases talking about how they have oil money, Not like Dallas. No, sir.
The private school of Dallas.
No. Sure. Yeah, they humble pie for the SEC. We love to see it. They
Yep.
were
And then
quiet.
it's been nice that I knew eventually like cooler heads would prevail. Like people would use their eyes, and the narrative would flip from oh my god they didn't deserve to be there to like all right let's pump the brakes because maybe like and we're gonna get into it in a little bit like that Notre Dame team is pretty fucking good, and that Ohio State team we obviously know is pretty damn good too. But like the fact that it happened so quickly, it was like instant karma, instant karma. Like you can't draw it up. And the fact that Herbstreit's still digging himself deeper into the hole is, I don't know. Keep doing you,
Paul
kid.
Feinbaum class act. I used to hate Paul Feinbaum, and I used to love Kirk Herbstreit. Now it's like flipped.
Crazy,
It's insane.
crazy.
Now I know Feinbaum doesn't actually speak out his asshole. He was just going by what he knows, which was the past 20 years, the SEC was the best. There was a little 3 year stretch, though, where the Pac 12 was the best. But besides that,
Pac-12 memory of the week.
SEC, Pac 12 memory of the week. Like, OS, oh, think Pete Carroll USC era. The rest of the pack was also loaded. Trust me. That was a great conference. A lot of NFL talent.
Conference
Marshawn
champions.
Lynch, like you're talking Aaron Rodgers, like that's just one school. That's just Cal.
Goff.
That wasn't not that era.
I know it wasn't the era. I know
Not
not
that
the
era,
era,
not
but I
that
thought we were
era.
talking Cal guys. I thought we were getting
We'll talk
excited
Cal
about Cal
guys.
quarterbacks.
Marvin Jones and Keenan Allen. They were teammates. That's how good those teams were. Yeah. People were like, "Why'd you lose to Cal?" Well, they have two NFL receivers. Sorry. Like, yeah, we lost the game. Yeah, I know they're 8-4, but the rest of their team's ass. But they have two NFL receivers, so they can win games. That's what people didn't get about the Pac-12. Like maybe they didn't have the most complete teams, but they had some of the best NFL talent in terms of like lasting in the league, making impacts. Pac-12 memory of the week: Keenan Allen, Marvin Jones.
Yeah, that's
Teammates.
because they're not physical. That's because that conference wasn't physical. No, none of them got
The
hurt.
theory was that you do the back when it was regional recruiting in that era. Think Southern boys, Midwest boys versus West Coast boys in the trenches. That's basically the difference. Weapons wise, quarterback wise, like West Coast had it all. Deep defense wise, like talking O line, D line though, different beasts in the SEC. That's why USC recruits in Florida, Texas. Same with UCLA. They all recruit nationally now.
Have to.
Have to.
Have to. All right, finishing up the smoke. Dave Portnoy declared Michigan the bully of college football. That was after Michigan closed the season in a strong way. They beat Ohio State in the horseshoe. They also ended up whooping Alabama in the bowl game. So I'd like to remind everybody just one more time, the last team to beat the bully, the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah, it made my top 5 memory of the year. Didn't make yours.
No, it didn't because Michigan's irrelevant.
They're the bully of the college football. Beating Michigan's a big deal. They're going to be playoff contenders next year. So Mikey Keene, the starter. I'm telling you.
Let's talk portal, Brad. Last time, I mean,
Speaking of portal,
it is funny. Last time we spoke, we did a transfer portal Christmas wish list, and it was headlined by Fernando Mendoza. Before I could even get the podcast out, Fernando Mendoza committed to Indiana. So that was, I mean, we spent about 25 minutes talking about Mendoza, which warranted, but I feel like we already had the Mendoza conversation. I still want to go over a couple of the guys that left first, and we'll talk about the guys that came in. Taven Jackson, we mentioned him a little bit earlier. He committed to UCF. He's going to be Scott Frost quarterback. Mackenzie Milton going to be running the offense over there. I'm excited for him. It's a really cool spot for him. The Big 12 is a step down from the Big 10. He's going to have a chance to make plays. He's going to be able to play with a bunch of Central Florida playmakers. So it's a really cool spot for him. And I'll be a Knight this fall for the. I got a Big 12 team, so that's exciting.
yeah, and that's definitely going to be the biggest hit we're going to take all portal season in terms of guys leaving. Backup quarterback probably was one of the better backups in the country, hence why he's now a starter in the Big 12. Got his money. Congrats to Taven, great player. I'm rooting for him. Rooting for him over at UCF. Gonna watch a lot of their games. Excited to see him play.
100%. Tight end Brody Cosen, he signed with Miami of Ohio. Vincent Sneed switched spots basically with Jose Wheeler. He's going to Western Kentucky. And JoJo Johnson is in the portal as well. He doesn't have a destination yet. But
all, like I said, guys just aren't going to get PT next year. They gotta go, and you're going to see them go to the MAC, go to Western Kentucky. JoJo Johnson probably has a better shot maybe going. He could probably play at UCF. I imagine he's decent. Didn't get a whole lot of burn this year, and probably won't next year considering all the corners we added. Sounds like they didn't have a whole lot of confidence in JoJo Johnson. It's like he leaves and they bring in like 3 corners. It's like, whoa. All right, guys.
Well, I think it's.
I'm not trying to trash the guy, but it's
no, we can't speak on it because we're not close to the room.
Exactly.
But
I don't know anything.
When you do go out of your way to bring in 2 corners and 2 guys who were starters at their respective universities to come in and challenge for roles with a guy who wasn't even the incumbent starter, it's like you kind of see the writing on the wall there. But you're right. It is a lot of like
throughout when we talk
guys
about
leaving for playing time.
Like we're upgrading. That's all we're doing.
We are upgrading, and that starts with Fernando Mendoza. Like I said, we spent about 20-25 minutes talking about how much it would mean for Mendoza to come to Indiana, the landscape of the portal quarterbacks behind Mendoza, who they were going up against in that recruiting battle in Georgia and Kirby Smart. We all saw what Georgia looked like over the weekend. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He officially signed at the back end of last week. I think I've played Fernando Bayaba about 1,000 times. I'm jacked up. Like this is like that's QB1. Like this is a huge deal.
Yeah, I have him starting on the depth chart right now with a little money sign. Sibling a transfer.
You got him starting?
I have him starting. I have him penciled in as a starter.
We might be breaking news here. I don't know.
I'm not announcing him as starter. I'm not
was...
in the room, but I'm penciling him in. I think Chandler Whitmer is going to name him the starter in spring.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair to say. Like, this dude was great at Cal. He threw for 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 98 yards with my boys. If you don't know what that is, he brought Cal was down against Stanford, brought them 98 yards to win the game. Just by all accounts, looks like an awesome kid, awesome quarterback, highly talented, and Indiana beat out Georgia for him.
Yeah, I think the guys are going to love him. I think it's going to be a great fit, considering his brother's already on campus. And we already filled Taven's role with a backup quarterback, Grant Wilson. So now all of a sudden, got 2 vets. For those that don't know, Grant Wilson was the backup at ODU last year, but he does have a 2,500-yard season as a former starter there. I don't know if it was if he didn't play due to injury. I'm not sure about his background, but not a whole lot of backups have 2,500-yard seasons in their
100%. And then
resume. With
2 quarterbacks leaving in Rourke and Taven, obviously you want to bring in 2 quarterbacks. They brought in Jacob Bell, Naperville High School kid, but Tyler Cherry hurt his knee during bowl prep. They're thinking he's not even going to be ready for the start of the season and could potentially miss the whole year. So you're already down another quarterback in the room. So going out and getting Wilson was like they had to go and make a move like this. So
yeah,
good on them for shoring up that room, and now they have some strong depth, and hopefully Cherry can heal up quickly. But they got 4 guys that. Like they have time to develop, so it's really cool.
The Cherry injury is definitely a good call out there because it definitely changes the complexion of the room. We still have 4 scholarship quarterbacks and Maverick Geske if we have to go 5th string. But it sounds like Cherry's not playing next year, which is unfortunate because he redshirted this year. He's a guy we're high on. It sounds like he's just going to stick around, and we'll see how his career goes with Indiana. But that's definitely devastating news with him getting the ACL. One of our one of our most highest touted recruits of all time at Indiana.
Yeah, so the quarterback room showed up. Also, I think it was yesterday, Rylan Gandy, Pittsburgh cornerback, starter there last year for them, just transferred into Indiana. We talked about JoJo Johnson leaving the room. We talked about a couple of the corners they're bringing in. Knighton, obviously, from NIU, we knew before the Notre Dame game. But Rylan Gandy, legitimate ACC starter. I know you just spent 10 minutes shitting on the league, but if you could start at quarter in this Pittsburgh defense, like, you can play.
I know I shit on the league. Doesn't mean they don't have good players. I'm going to trust Cignetti's roster building philosophy until there is a reason to question it. I have Gandy penciled in as starter opposite of Pons. Gives us depth of returning starter Jameer Johnson mixing in there, as well as Knighton. Those are four clear cornerbacks. Kind of stirs up the room, especially guys that are in that room currently are probably going to change positions. Probably Jaja Boyd to safety. Deontay Stewart, an incoming freshman. He's very big, very good tackler. I could see him moving to Rover. Even with that happening, still got four freshmen coming in next year behind that foursome. The depth at corner right now is pretty insane. Tons of talent there. Jair Alexander's cousins just waiting in the wings, like he's just there. I mean, just good vibes from that room. It's they're building something definitely in that safety room with Baldwin coming in. The whole DB room.
Yeah,
it's
and
looking
you could
really
argue
nice.
those are two of our. You could argue those are two of our best coaches in Rod Ojong and Ola Adams. They do a phenomenal job in the recruiting trail, obviously in the room as well. But yeah, it's we're not really quite at the point where we're ready to declare starters yet. Obviously, there's so much movement still to happen. The teams that are still playing. I think Ole Miss even still has technically a couple of days for their guys to join the portal. The teams that are still playing after their seasons end, those guys will have 5 days to decide if they want to join the portal. And then the spring portal is its own beast. And so I'm excited to specifically dive into that room because, like you just mentioned, there is so much talent. And it's not just at the senior level or at the junior level. Like the guys who are redshirts last year, who are going to be redshirt freshmen this year, and the kids coming in the class of 25. Yeah, people think we're going somewhere. Like, it's nuts. You're just not paying attention.
Pons, Knighton, Gandy, Sharp, Johnson, four freshmen behind that. It's all of a sudden one of our strongest position rooms. And because I'm very high on all the freshmen they've brought in too, on top of all the transfers and everything that they've done so far and retained Sharp and Jameer Johnson. It's probably the two guys that were starting for Tom Allen. Like they're going to be backups next year. It's insane what they've done.
Yeah, that's just not it. Like, they haven't slowed down. They added Tyler Morris, receiver from Michigan. Didn't do a ton stats wise, but did score in the national championship game. Prototypical slot build, a position we've been talking about ad nauseum that they need to address. They went out and got a guy for that. Looks like he's bringing a little bit of explosiveness. It does kind of buck in the trend of production over potential, but at the same time, when you look at Michigan's offense, they don't throw the ball. And they definitely don't throw the ball to wide receivers.
When you look at his numbers, it seems like, to your point, like you make a great point there. Like it seems like it's a potential overproduction on paper, but if you've watched Michigan over the years, you know Tyler Morris is very fast and a very important piece of their offense. Like you have to cover Tyler Morris is basically what happened. The dude is fast. If you didn't watch that Bama game, he just ran past all these Bama players for a touchdown. He's very, very fast. He's faster than Price and Key Williams. The production isn't there like those two guys coming in terms of Tyler Morris, but he's coming from a bigger school that throws the ball less, and he's just that type of athlete that Michigan gets.
He's the type of athlete that you could say, if you're going to look at the one thing the Indiana offense was missing the entire year, it was somebody that like quite literally took the top off the defense. Like, yeah, when they were playing guys who they were just clearly better than, you were watching Cooper and Surratt run by people. But they didn't just have that guy who could run by anyone. And I'm not like, that guy doesn't grow on trees. And I don't know if Morris is going to be that exact blazer, but like that speed dynamic is something that they desperately needed.
Surratt, Cooper, Morris as the starters, tons of depth behind them once again. Very, very strong position room. Already apparently there's room to grow with this team. Somehow.
And I honestly think a lot of what Surratt and Cooper do really well translates well to the slot. And so I don't know if it would be in the team's best interest to take their two best outside guys and take one of them out of the outside. But, I mean, you could have lineup combinations where you have E.J. Williams and Cooper and Surratt on the field at the same time. So
They're
there's a lot of versatility in the room too, which
they're
is
built to
exciting.
rotate. And speaking of versatility, they already brought in Mekhi Jackson, who can kind of fill that two-way type receiver. He can go in the slot. He can go outside. He's just an overall burner, very fast player. Once again, speed, bringing speed in that room. I don't know if Cooper and Serrata are the biggest burners in the world. These
Yeah, it
guys
was
can
funny
run.
during the Notre Dame game. Like the announce team tried to make it like Cooper, like they're really excited to use Cooper's speed to their advantage. It's like, how much Omar Cooper have you guys watched? Like, yeah, the guy's fast, but I definitely like his hands and his ability to catch the ball are definitely his
The
best
first thing I
asset.
think of Omar Cooper is not speed. I don't think of speed.
No,
It's probably the fifth thing I think of when I think of Omar Cooper. It's not. He's a possession guy. He's going to get open. He's a good route runner. Very good hands. Very good body control. Very good and like very good like contested catch like
yep,
ability.
yeah,
Getting those
exactly.
50-50 balls. That's his game. Even though he's a little undersized for a typical guy you see like that, which is why we might be
No,
getting
I'm with you. I'm
another.
with
We
you.
might be getting more Omar Cooper. Kind of fits the college mold a little bit more than a NFL guy. But I digress. I think he could have a great NFL career. I'm just saying what scouts are probably saying. Just
And then Brad, you've been clamoring for a long snapper. This guy's not on scholarship, but Sam Lindsley, long snapper, Georgia State, coming to the Hoosiers as well. He's committed. Position of need handled.
apparently Mark Langston might be back. It is a very important
See, I was
position to
trying to
address.
see. I was trying to tell you that, and you were like, "No, this
But
guy
he's a
doesn't
senior
exist."
plus.
Like,
He's a
blah, blah,
senior
blah.
plus on the roster. There's no way he has another year.
Well, if he doesn't have
We have
another
Sam
year, they went
Lindsay.
out and
There we
addressed that
go.
issue too.
We got-
Yeah, exactly. And then we had a couple guys come back. Some returning friends. Lewis Moore, safety from Ole Miss. You talked about him a little bit earlier. Khalil Benson, offensive line. I feel like he's a true guard, but he was playing all over the offensive line for Colorado as they tried to figure out what was and wasn't working for them. But two familiar faces returning back to Bloomington. I'm a little bit more pumped about Lewis Moore than I am about Khalil Benson, but Benson's got a ton of talent. He struggled a little bit this year for Colorado, but there's a lot of guys in that Colorado circle, including Buffton Prime, that say a lot of really great things about the type of kid and the type of player he is. And obviously, we know Benson from his time in Indiana. So, like, if at worst he's going to be a backup offensive lineman and provide depth in that room, that's phenomenal. And if he's going to be the player that we thought he was going to be when we recruited him to Indiana, and he ends up being a Big Ten starting offensive lineman, boom, there you go. Like, that's exactly what they needed. So I love the move. I love both moves actually too, because safety was again another position where we feel strongly about it, but you wanted another veteran presence in there. They were just a little bit young in the room, and so to get a guy like Lewis Moore, well, he didn't have the best season in 2024, but we know the type of talent he's got. That guy can play football.
Yeah, I like Lewis more to start. I think with the lack of veteran presence we have in that like spot, it's nice to bring Lewis more in because we could obviously we talked about Baldwin potentially starting at safety. He could be the other safety, move Farrell back to his best position, which I think is the rover. He can have a Terry Jones even bigger. Because on my wish list, I had NFL stud, NFL rover. Turns out, I think we already had him on our team in Mikhail Kamara as our NFL stud and Amari Farrell as our NFL rover. I think we just make those moves and fill in the rest.
I like it. Yeah, I'm excited to. We literally just talked about it. I'm really excited to attack that room in particular this offseason and really dive in and see um, kind of where each piece is fitting in, because like they're insanely talented in that room. Another upgrade on the offensive line. Well, the discourse on this guy was a little bit back and forth, but Zen Michalowski, offensive tackle from Ohio State, he worked his way into the starting lineup this year, but ended up getting injured in the first game he started, so there wasn't a ton for him this year. The Ohio State fans weren't a huge fan of him, but that obviously makes sense because the guy was leaving. And so anytime you take a guy who can play multiple positions on the offensive line and put him in a room with Bob Bostad, I'm pretty confident. So if anybody's going to be able to get the best out of this kid, it's going to be Bostad. And again, if at worst he ends up becoming a backup offensive tackle and a swing tackle, or a guy who's going to fill in multiple spots on the offensive line, like that's a win, because you needed guys like that, especially in that class. Because again, similar trend with a lot of the roster because of how late this staff came in last year. A lot of those freshmen, like they're just young, and so they needed to supplement the upper part of their classes. And like getting a guy who's got Big Ten experience and has been in Big Ten rooms for a couple of years is huge.
Yeah, and we got Zeb Mikowski as well from Ohio State. It's kind of the same boat there.
That's what I just said. That's who I was talking
Exactly.
about. Michalowski,
Yeah.
Michalowski, whatever his name is.
Right tackle for Mikowski and right guard for Benson. I got Bray Lynch at center. Drew Evans coming back. Right guard. Off the Achilles. Might need one more O-lineman, potentially.
I like the room, though. I really like
great.
the room.
15 scholarship
like the
guys. That's what you want. You want at least 15.
I really like the guys in the class of 2024. I think they're bringing in some legit hosses in the class of 2025. And I'm not a scout or anything, but there's a dude on Cardinal Mooney, Deron Parks, who I'd love to join this 2025 class. That would be awesome. He would be a mauler on that offensive line, and to add him to that offensive line class with Wilkin, and is Marek in that 25 class too, or is he 24?
Marek's an incoming freshman. I like he looks center to me. He looks Mike Kadick.
And Evan Parker too. Like I don't know if the class needs another offensive lineman, but I'd like for them to go after him. That'd be dope.
It'd be nice to have a starter. Well, if you're talking this past class, I think we're full in terms of freshmen. We have 8 scholarship freshmen coming in next year. I don't think another freshman's going to be coming in. I'm thinking veteran transfer is going to be the way to go. But we're definitely going to need more freshmen this coming cycle, 100%, because we got a lot of seniors. Carter Smith. I think Benson and Mikowski are seniors.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff, man. I wrote back last February that the program felt different largely because of the work they were doing on the recruiting trail. And to see that come to fruition 10 months later, 11 months later, and what that looks like and where it's going, I can't say I'm surprised because the building blocks they were laying it only goes one way. It can only go up. But it's just to be on this journey, to experience this live, and now to have the chirps go from, oh, you guys aren't going to make a bowl, to you're just going to go back to your 8-win seasons. Like, people have no idea. Like, it's insane. So shout out to those guys.
Seasons. You have no idea. That's why I made this podcast, because I was dreaming of 8-win seasons. I was not dreaming of playoffs. I was dreaming of 8-win seasons. Just competitive football. It's all I ever wanted. Like, it wasn't even about,
that is literally all we ever wanted. And the fact that we've gotten that and so much more in year one, like, that's crazy. And all that work started in February. And so if you were like me and you were watching what was happening, you were screaming from the rooftops that this was different, that this wasn't just the same program you've been watching. It just felt different. And this is what that looks like. And they're not done yet. And it's super exciting.
Yeah, I think that wraps up. We gotta do a room preview if you keep me going on how we're building up these. Just think depth when it comes to what we're doing right now. So much at it. We could be done today. No, we could be done. I don't think we're done with the portal, but we could be done today and we'd be fine going into next year. Yeah, like, we're at 8 wins already, at least.
Yeah, but guess what? Great teams don't stop. They keep adding, and they're going to keep adding. And a lot of talent could potentially be joining the portal after the college football playoff ends, Brad, which has been going on for the last couple of days and has helped greatly in Indiana football's narrative.
Ohio State, Notre Dame still fighting, still playing around, could meet themselves in the national title game. That would be the best scenario for Indiana football. However,
still fighting. I would argue they're the two best teams in the country.
Wouldn't hate Ohio State, Penn State. Are we going to preview these games? Is that what we're doing?
I thought we were going to recap what happened.
Oh, yeah. Let's recap what happened. So,
yeah.
First day, Penn State whoops Boise State. Boise State fought. I will say that. They fought. They played like they belonged. And I think they did. They just lost the game. Penn State's the better team. That's what happened.
Yeah, listen, if you have a problem with Boise State being in the field or thinking Boise State didn't belong, then you need to go back and watch what happened week 2 when they played Oregon.
Well,
like, that is a team that deserved to be on the field. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they should have won the game. No, I watched the game. Like, Penn State looked great. But Boise State deserved to be there. They earned their
whether
way.
or not they played Oregon or not, it's like the same philosophy as like we got to have the best group of 5 team in. If we have undefeated Texas State, like, yeah, they deserve to play. That's a callback to the pilot.
It's a callback to the very loyal listeners.
The very loyal listeners. If we have undefeated Western Michigan, like, yeah, they need to be in. I need to see Corey Davis in the playoff. Get smoked by Wisconsin. I need to see it for proof that someone can beat Western Michigan, because it hasn't been proved yet. That's the whole idea. I know Boise State had 1 loss, but they whooped everyone they played.
Yeah, listen, you're not gonna have the Indiana football podcast be degrading teams and saying they don't deserve to be there after they put a whole season on wax. Like, it's just not going to happen.
You'll never hear it from us because we're consistent. Unlike, Herbstreit. I'm not going to shit on Feinbaum, but
no, we use our eyes. Like, say whatever you want before the game when things are hypothetical or they up in the air, and you can say whatever you want and there's no fact to back it up. Voice your opinion. But once something is set in stone and you can actually look at it, you got to say what your eyes show you. And if you're not doing that, then you quickly lose credibility, because the second you try and start changing the narrative when everyone can see what you're doing, you just look like an idiot.
Exactly. And then the next day, I'm moving on from Penn State, Boise State. I just am.
No, you're good. There's not much to say about that game. Penn
State
State looked great. They looked terrifying, and that's going to be an awesome football game with Notre Dame.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I guess we'll jump to Thursday. So the game got postponed. It was supposed to be on New Year's Day. Notre Dame, Georgia, in SEC country. Belt the ass.
Yeah, I think first of all we gotta. I feel like it would be in poor taste to not at least mention, hearts and prayers and thoughts and stuff with the people affected by the tragedy that happened in New Orleans that caused the game to be pushed back in the first place. The fact that all of those players, teams, families, fans, like I knew somebody who was on Bourbon Street 2 hours before that happened. Like, everybody had to go into that game with a heavy heart and a clouded head. And so the fact that they were even able to go out there and play football and kind of pause what was going on in the outside world for a second, that's kind of the bigger picture here. But, jumping right back into the game,
couldn't have said that better myself.
But, yeah, we're going to talk about the game, and we're going to talk about what our eyes showed us, and it was belt to ass. And I tweeted this out before the game started, but that Notre Dame defense that Georgia played against was worse than the one Indiana played against. Riley Mills, who hurt his knee in the Indiana game and is out for the rest of the year, which is a devastating loss for Notre Dame, All-American, like, it wasn't a coincidence that once he exited the game, Indiana was able to move the ball on offense. Like, the pressure just stopped coming up the middle, and Rourke had a little bit of time to throw, and lo and behold, like, he was able to start completing some passes. Notre Dame had no trouble with Georgia. They ran to the kicker like 5 times in a row. They were supposed to be out-athleted. Like, there was no question who the better team on the field was. Absolutely no question. You wouldn't have been able to tell by listening to the commentary or like what ESPN was saying after, but Notre Dame whooped them.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. It'd be a stretch. I'd say it's just as bad to slightly better as the Indiana result. I was at that game. Indiana got outworked. Notre Dame's very good.
No.
But the fact that we're even comparable to Georgia in recruiting and football right now is insane.
I don't want this to get misconstrued because we just had that whole, like, we said what our eyes saw and, like, blah, 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 blah. Like, no. I know the scores look similar, but watching both games, like, there was just a different feel. Like, the both lines, like, Notre Dame dominated the game, but their sideline sweated the whole time. Like, it was just a different type of feeling versus Indiana, which is where we're trying to get to. So I'm not going to, like, while, yes, I was having a lot of fun during the game and during the Oregon game, tweeting back at the SEC, tweeting back at ESPN and all that good stuff. there was a difference in what those two games looked like. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you there wasn't.
Yeah, we're almost there. We're close. We're
Yeah,
building
we are,
that
and we
depth
upgraded this
right
year.
now for sure. Georgia level depth, building it. It's coming soon. Pause.
Yeah, but the way Gunnar Stockton played, not that he was horrible. I don't think he was the reason Georgia lost the game. But looking at the way he played, and then looking back at Indiana beating out Georgia for the best transfer quarterback in the portal in Fernando Mendoza, like, you can't sit here after watching that game and tell me that Georgia's not a better team with Fernando Mendoza at quarterback than they are with Gunnar Stockton. Like, they are. Like, Georgia needed that guy. And Indiana beat them out.
Drop Mike. What a win. What a recruiting win for Indiana.
Yeah, and guess what? It turns out Notre Dame's pretty good.
Turns out Notre Dame's pretty good. And they could be facing Ohio State, who in the SoCal Hot Sauce Game of the Week, get your 4-pack of SoCal Hot Sauce variety pack, whatever you want, all 4 of the same flavor. You can go hot avocado, red hot, and are we still... What's up with the original red? What's up?
I want to say the original red.
Last time I
is
checked, it was
coming
out and I
back.
stopped. So
I believe it's coming
the
back
hot
shortly. If it's not already
avocado
back.
is still the way to go, even when it's back. Though I'm telling you, get the 4-pack. You get free shipping. Starting at a 4-pack, you can get cases if you want. I love putting it on, salmon. I've been eating a lot of fish, so I always say I put it on salmon, which is true. I do. And it might sound crazy, but it tastes really good. It can basically go on anything. Breakfast skillet on Hoosier game days, yada yada. Use promo code SIGSINSIDE, that's 2 words, SIGSINSIDE, for 10% off your order. You already get free shipping. It's basically $20 a 4-pack. Not a bad
free
deal.
shipping if you get the 4-pack. Free shipping if you get the 4-pack. So promo code SIGSINSIDE, SoCalHotSauce.com, check them out.
Bang.
SoCal Hot Sauce Game of the Week wasn't much of a game.
Wasn't much of a game. Oregon they did worse than we did against Ohio State that time around. Holy smokes. Ohio State's going to win the Natty. They're going to smoke Texas, and they're going to smoke whoever comes out of Notre Dame, Penn State.
Yeah, we learned 2 things, really, from the Ohio State-Oregon game. 1, home field advantage matters. Matters a lot. And the fact that those first-round playoff games were at the schools instead of at a neutral site definitely impacted those results, which is why we saw so many blowouts. I think if you put those games in neutral sites, they would have been closer. I'm not telling you the results would have changed. I'm just saying home field matters.
Home field matters.
And then, obviously, Ohio State is the best team in the country, and like, what do you say to that? Like, yeah, the money they spent on the roster is paying off. And it was so funny, too. Like, Herbstreit can't stop putting his foot in his mouth. He's like, yeah, everybody talks about Ohio State $20 million roster, but look, like, all their guys are seniors and fifth years. It's like, yeah, that's what NIL is for. NIL is for keeping your roster in school. Like, look at 23 Michigan. 23 Michigan sent 14 players to the draft. At least half those guys could have gone the year before and got drafted in similar, if not slightly worse spots. All those dudes came back because of NIL. All of those Ohio State dudes came back because of NIL. They spent $20 million in the roster. You think they spent it on nobody or 2 transfers? You're out of your mind. That's crazy. But yeah, Ohio State by far is the best team in the country. And it's like, you take a look at Indiana's season, and the farther away we get from it, the better it looks, because their 2 losses are Ohio State and Notre Dame, who look like the 2 best teams in the country.
It's funny because it's like, to Ryan Day's credit, they've looked so good these next 2 games to where a point where it's like, if they lose one of these next 2 games, it's like it's Ryan Day's fault, which is so, like, it's so funny. Just think about, like, how fucked this guy is. He just fucks himself over and over again by being too good, and then he loses, and then they're like, what the hell? That's why you don't fire these guys. That's why you're not. Yeah, that's why all the fire Ryan Day shit is just ridiculous, and well, it won't happen. If it does, that's going to be its own episode, basically.
No, yeah, 100%. From the Ohio State perspective, it's ridiculous. From my perspective, where I'm trying to stoke that flame and cause a little bit of havoc, yeah, I like the Ryan Day should be fired talk. But if you're talking about, like, taking the Indiana bias out of it, why would you fire that guy?
Insane.
All he does is win. And honestly, it's easy for me to say because I just don't care about the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. But, like, if you're just going to go to the playoff and the final every year, like, I feel like you could just I feel like you could lose a couple games to Michigan.
Yeah, Oregon just did not show up in that game, which is a damn shame because they had a great year. 13-0, winning the Big Ten, and then they just lay an egg in the Rose Bowl. It happens. Everyone lays eggs in big games. It happens. We keep it consistent over here. We just keep it real. Is what we said after the Notre Dame game. It's like these things happen. You just lose the game sometimes. You just don't show
Listen,
up.
is it fun to have fun at Oregon's expense and use that as a way to continue to push the narrative that Indiana was disrespected? Yes. Can we retain credibility if we sit here and tell you Oregon wasn't a good team? No, that's ridiculous. They were a very good team.
Ohio State's very good. Arizona State took the SEC is yet to win in regulation in the playoff because Texas had to go to overtime to beat the Big 12 champ. Hence my, stance on the Big 12 maybe being a step above the ACC. Arizona State should have won that game. Somehow didn't win the game. The back-to-back touchdowns from Texas was insane. Instant classic. That was the best game of the year. That was unbelievable. What a treat at the New Year's Day. I was so hungover. I had the shakes. I'm just watching this game go down. It was insane. Best game I ever watched.
That game was awesome. I mean, Lovett was phenomenal. He raised his draft stock completely.
Lovett's an NFL guy. No doubt.
Scatterbo, I mean, obviously you see the highlights and you saw his stats in the year, but I can't sit here and tell you I watched a ton of Arizona State. Holy cows, can that guy do? Is there anything he can't do? That dude's incredible. He was game MVP, offensive MVP of the game on the losing team, Brad.
Pac-12 memory of the week. Arizona State 2 years ago. That's their first year they're on sanctions with Kenny Dillingham. They have enough quarterback injuries to where they have to start Cam Scatterbo at quarterback in the Rose Bowl against the UCLA Bruins, and they go out and they win the game. That's when I knew Kenny Dillingham was different.
That's nuts.
Fuck Chip Kelly. Should we preview these next games?
Real briefly on Scatterbo, you just know he's going to end up on the Chiefs, and he's going to be generational.
If he gets on a contender, it's a problem for the league. You do not want that guy as a contender's RB2. That is a problem. You're telling me I have to stop Pacheco and then they just put in Scatterbo? Are you fucking kidding me? I'd be so mad.
Your life gets hard.
I'd be so mad.
I got to tackle that guy.
I'm tired, Coach. I'm tired. On Thursday, January 9th, Notre Dame hosts Penn State in what I think will be the best game of the semifinals. By far, I have no read on this. Notre Dame seems like the better team, but with the Big Ten dominance, Penn State might be that. They've only lost to Oregon and Ohio State.
Penn State looks pretty damn good, and if Aller is going to continue to play the way he's playing, Drew Aller is getting legitimate QB1 of this draft buzz. And I know he already said he was coming back to school, but that hasn't. It's actually gotten louder since he declared coming back. Everybody's going, this quarterback class is lacking. He is the clear number one. Which, listen, I'm a fan of Shedeur. I'm a fan of Cam Ward. But after those two guys, I would agree. It's a lot of, day 3 or round 3 projects and, developmental, you hand these guys to an NFL organization, and you just hope and pray they get it right. And we've seen over and over again that these organizations just fail. So if you're Drew Aller and you continue to play the way they're playing and he brings Penn State to a national championship or wins a national championship, he's not going back to school next year. He's going to be the number 1 pick.
Legend. The spread is 1.5. Notre Dame's the favorite. Basically a pick 'em. Who do you got?
Yeah,
Who do you got?
I'm with you, dude. I'm struggling to get a read on this game because it almost feels insulting to say this is a prove-it game for Notre Dame, right? Because they just played Georgia. But this almost feels like Georgia with an offense. And so if Notre Dame can handle the Penn State lines the same way they handled Georgia's line, I just think we see a very similar Notre Dame football game. But people keep saying that the Notre Dame's going to get out-athleted. I haven't seen it yet. So is this the game that happens? If so, if they look overmatched on the lines, then it gets really interesting because you're relying on Riley Leonard to make a lot of plays. But if Notre Dame dictates the pace of the game, I'm My gut tells me that Notre Dame's going to be able to play their style of football just because, like, the way that they physically move the ball and control both lines of scrimmage just feels like it translates. That being said, like, Penn State's got the athletes to play the game. I think they're damn good. It's like, yeah, I'm with you. I think this is game of the
I
weekend.
figured it out. It's SoCal Hot Sauce game of the week, by the way. I have my
100%.
official pick. I'm picking Penn State in this game, and here is why. I think Notre Dame, as far as they've come, they're very talented. When you look at the overall health, I know they have the depth, but they have so much out right now in terms of, their O line, their D line. They just don't have their best guys out there. Penn State does. And I would think if Notre Dame fully healthy, I think wins this game. I'm taking Penn State in this game. I know Notre Dame hasn't been healthy for this entire playoff. It's the same injuries that they've had minus the star D tackle they lost in the Indiana game, which they still beat Georgia in spite of. I just don't think it's enough to get to the Natty. I'm picking Penn State in the upset somehow.
I actually like Notre Dame.
Because I picked Penn State. I like
No.
where your head's at.
It's because if you look at the way Penn State's been able to operate offensively, yes, Aller's been awesome, but he hasn't been asked to do a ton. He hasn't had to make a lot of high stress throws. They've been able to just hand the ball off 40 times a game, control the game with their defense. Like the SMU game was over before it started. The Boise State game, they didn't stress much either. I think Notre Dame is going to be, other than Ohio State, the best defense they played this year. With the way that Notre Dame plays on the outside, and specifically with Xavier Watts' ability to cover Tyler Warren, I think it's going to be a lot harder for Penn State to move the ball. And I actually think that Notre Dame's going to be able to dictate the pace of play on offense. So I actually like Notre Dame to be able to pull out a closer game.
I like it. I like the pick. I'm still sticking with Penn State, even though I'm probably going to be wrong. I'm probably less confident in Penn State than you are confident in Notre Dame. So take that as you will, listeners.
It's just I look at Notre Dame's ability to run the ball and Riley Leonard. Like, people are going to look at the Indiana game and they're just going to have to take away that Riley Leonard wasn't under any pressure and he didn't have to do much and he had easy throws the whole game. The reality is, like, Indiana sat back there and made Riley Leonard pick them apart at times, and he was great. Like, if Penn State's not able to generate any pressure, like, Notre Dame's going to be able to run the ball. And if Love gets loose or any of their other guys or Leonard gets rolling, like, they're really tough to stop. And they hold the ball for a long-ass time. So I haven't seen Aller play under pressure a whole lot. And so if I'm gonna be betting on one of these teams, I'm gonna take the quarterback who I'm more confident is gonna be able to deliver over and over again. From what Riley Leonard has showed me, he's the guy who's played under more heat.
God damn it, I'm on the Notre Dame bandwagon. God damn it, I'm on it. Even though I think it would be sick if there was an all Big Ten Natty back-to-back years.
On top of all of that, the narrative, which I continue to call it, like, it is so much better for Indiana's season if Notre Dame and Ohio State meet in the championship game. And so I feel like my heart just wants that to happen.
I agree. And I think Notre Dame's very capable.
Which is sickening.
In the Orange Bowl, Miami, January 9th. Friday, January 10th in the Cotton Bowl, the Jerry Dome. Ohio State taking on Texas. Basically a home game for Texas. Who do you got? I don't have a whole lot on this. I'm pretty confident Ohio State's going to go in there and smack them. So you can follow Six Inside, an Indiana football podcast, on Twitter at Six Inside Pod. You can follow myself at
Did you not want to talk about the bowl games?
Loomis8.
Wait, Brad, did you not want to talk about the bowl games?
UCLA
basketball.
UCLA hoops is on right now.
That's fair. We'll be back later this week.
We alluded to some of the bowl games, and I have my favorites, obviously. I want East Carolina, NC State, great fight at the end. East Carolina taking it to Big Brother in the ACC. I think the biggest storyline is Big Ten dominance with USC beating A&M. We got who else got big wins? Iowa almost beat Missouri, which is our only loss head-to-head against the SEC. Ohio State whooped Clemson. Who else we got? Illinois beat South Carolina. That was probably the biggest. That was the biggest one of them all.
Yeah. The Illinois and South Carolina in Bielema versus Beamer.
That was insane. It was
as,
awesome.
As the day of football is unfolding, and that's just like thrown in there as well. Like, yeah, if you didn't have fun watching the bowl games this season, like, I feel so bad for you because you went out of your way to be miserable.
It was awesome. And you watched North Carolina lose to UConn, NC State lost to East Carolina, Pitt lost to Toledo, ACC looked bad, Big Ten looked good. That's the end of the story. SEC looked average. Big 12, impressive. BYU whooping Colorado in that bowl game, by the way. Whoa. Whoa.
BYU good.
Whoa. You can follow Alec Keyser at Alec Keyser and check out keysportsnetwork.com. He's pumping stuff out again. Watch out.
Yeah, it's firing again. We're firing.
Watch out. And then shout out the boys Wave, NxckSkrxll, Cygnar. Check out Friends and Collaborators, Instrumental Volume 1 on streaming platforms now. Our intro song, 1621, and our outro song is Butter Symphony. Take it away. Even though I might swerve. I might swerve, bend that corner. Whoa, whoa. That wouldn't be a horrible intro or outro song either. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we might have to cut that.
For
no, but
we might have to cut that.
We're pretty much into the off season. The college football season is dwindling. It ends a week from Monday, right? No, it ends the 20th. It ends the 20th. So we've loosely talked about an off season schedule. We talked about bi-weekly. We've talked about maybe I hop on and do something midweek. We maybe even throw around potential some guest spots in the middle of those things. So we're still working through what we're going to end up doing for the off season. I do know we're going to be releasing something once a week. So yeah, I'm excited, and it's only up from here, boys.
Yeah, I get excited to cover this team. We're going to continue doing it in the off season. I gotta watch Broom Hoops now.
Hoosiers.
Hooies.